All right, so welcome to our Blueprints for Success episode with Maria Becerra. I'm super excited all the way from Canada, and we're going to be talking about multiple things today. So, welcome, Maria.
Hi, Deirdre. Thank you so much for having me and for inviting me to this session. Happy to be here and sharing a little bit of my knowledge.
That's awesome. Can you maybe let's start with your business analysis career, but also if you can give me a little bit around your background. So where you from, what you passionate about, and then how did you end up in business analysis?
Oh, for sure. So I'm originally from Colombia and I studied there my undergrad, which is in engineering. After that, most of my career has been at the intersection of business and a little bit of technology. So I've been always working in that middle point, which is amazing because you get the best of both worlds. I work in a different set of roles from project manager, business analyst, without knowing I was a business analyst at the time, a lot of data analysis. And then when I decided to move to Canada about 5 years ago, I came as an international student and I had to decide what program to take. I had seen from my experience that successful leaders had taken business courses. So I was checking the different programs and I noticed the business analysis program at Mohawk College. That got my attention immediately. And then I decided to study that. And that's how I formally started my
Oh,
career in business analysis. But yes, other than that, before in Colombia, like we didn't even know that this role existed. Some of the activities of a business analyst were like common to us, but we didn't know it was business analysis. So it was very interesting to find out that here in Canada.
that is really amazing because number one, you've gone for formal training before doing business analysis, which is very
Hmm.
unusual for many people in the field.
Yes.
Um, and also, you did it without actually even knowing prior that you were doing business analysis. So, for your training, I'm just curious, how did you
Yes.
find when you went and studied? Did you think, oh, this is obvious, this is the right thing? What were your thoughts when you studied it?
I was surprised to see that a lot of things that I did in my home country were embedded in the program. And I felt, oh, I finally found a place where I can fit. I know now where can I learn more. Because when I was in Colombia, my titles were things like sales data analyst or commercial data analyst, or the other one was refund analyst. So it doesn't relate that much with business analyst. So I was surprised to see that some of the activities that I was doing there were embedded in the program, like the strategy analysis piece or the elicitation of requirements, things like that. But it was nice to see that there were like kind of guidance and frameworks on how to do it better because I was just doing it as I thought it was good to do it and better to do it. So it was great to find like that place where I could refer to some frameworks that I could look up to. So it was a great surprise, a pleasant one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good. It's good
Mhm.
to see that the kind of the training side of it has really been beneficial for your career. I also know that you volunteer quite a lot with the IIBA. Is that correct?
Yes, I volunteer with different organizations, and sometimes people joke about that I volunteer a lot, but I think that's my mom's and my grandma's fault because they were volunteered for many years. My mom is still a volunteer at one of international organization in Colombia. So I guess I got that in my DNA. But yeah, so your question, when I moved here to Canada, I started volunteering at the IIBA Hamilton chapter, where I was the president there. And with my colleagues, we started the chapter in our city because the closer one was the one in Toronto, and for many people it wasn't accessible. So we created a chapter there, stayed there for 2.5 years almost. And then when I had decided to take a break from volunteering. I was asked if I wanted to take the role of regional director of Latin America. And I couldn't say no. It was business analysis plus a little bit of connection
Yeah.
with my roots in Latin America. So that's what I'm doing currently, helping some of our leaders and to find ways to keep growing their chapters. And in
Mm.
addition to that, I lead a community of volunteers called AI Expedition, where we help other people with no technical or any background about AI to learn more about this field.
That's awesome. And I know that you've got a very active chapter as well. You've had an active chapter with the IIBA because during COVID, and I think a lot of groups actually joined your group as well during the COVID time because of the amounts of kind of webinars and guest speakers and all kinds of people that you had on board. So that's awesome.
It,
Congratulations for all of
Thank
that.
you. It was a great experience. And I think that's how we actually got to meet because I reached out to you to be our guest speaker in one of our sessions. And I think that was our idea to bring the expertise of people and keep building the community, which is very important.
Mm. Mm. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit around your BA career. And I know you've had previous, but what are the key experiences or turning points that you've had? I know you've mentioned your studies and moving into that, but have there been any key things that have happened to you that has really accelerated some of your actual work that you're doing?
Oh, I wouldn't hesitate to say that being the president of the IIBA Hamilton chapter was like a career accelerator for me. I was new in the country at the time. I had been here for almost years when I took that leadership role as a volunteer. But working with people or volunteering with people who had more experience than me, who had been in the field for 15, 20 plus years, and I being the newest in the group, was a little bit intimidating. On top of that, English is not my first language, so I felt very intimidated speaking in English, being comfortable on this language. So I think it helped me on a personal side to be a better leader, to be a better communicator, to connect with people, reaching out to other business analysts and building that network, which is super important in our field, and learning from others, leaving the ego on a side and understanding that I don't know everything. So I would say that was one of the most significant moments in my career and that have helped me grow in this field. But now thinking about that, another important point was when I took a data science course. It was a free program from Correlation One. They still offer free programs, but now it's only for people in the US. And that's where I got a lot of interest in the world of AI. And I would say I really enjoy what I do. And if it wasn't for that program, I wouldn't be doing what I do today.
It's interesting because often I get asked, and I know other people get asked as well, people wanting to get into business architecture or analysis or are immigrating and looking for roles and those kind of things. And they often want to know how they can get a job. But your story around volunteering and actually doing work in the community really did help build your career in that sense.
Yes, because when you volunteer, it happens so many things. Like, yes, you're growing in your personal side because you're developing your soft skills, like the communication, presentation, facilitation skills. But you are also growing your technical skills because you are attending all these webinars. You are talking with these leaders. You're also, on top of that, building your network because then now you have colleagues you can reach out to. Maybe you have a quick doubt or question that you want to bounce around with them. I would encourage everyone who is trying to transition to a new role or looking into the business analysis field to volunteer. And it's a safe way to fail, right? Because you're volunteering and it's a good way to experiment because whatever you do, you're doing it with the best intention to help your community, but in a safe environment. You're not going to get fired for trying and
Yeah.
experimenting.
Yeah, it's a great testimony to the fact that it does actually work. It's something we often recommend, but I don't know if everyone believes us, you know.
Yeah.
So that's great. So it's a great testament.
Yeah,
Um,
and Sorry, just to add one more
No, go
thing.
for it.
I think like in anything in your life, whatever you put into something is what you're going to get. So yes, you can go and volunteer, but if you're not really bringing your ideas, giving like your 100%,
True.
that's what you're going to get. So maybe for some people might have not worked because they just see it as a, okay, this is just a volunteering activity, I don't have to put a lot of effort. But instead, if you think the other way, I'm going to put the best effort that I can because I know I can get a lot, you will get a lot. So yes, it's just a shift of how we perceive things.
That's actually a really good point because it means that you want to show people what you can do, right? So that they can trust you. Because if you just sit there and do nothing and become a volunteer but don't actually do anything, they're just going to think you lazy anyway. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So, so
Exactly.
that's part of showing as well that you actually are invested and you actually are interested. And yeah, that's a really good point. Didn't actually think of that one. So let's talk a little bit around AI, but also talk about your BA career because you have been spending a lot of time doing some AI things.
Mhm.
So maybe let's talk about what do you see business analysis today, and how do you see some of that pivoting between AI and what's happening today?
Nowadays, I see that a lot of business analysts are seeing AI just from the user perspective. Okay, I'm a business analyst. Maybe I need to write requirements or start a draft for something, brainstorm, create my use cases, my test use cases, or something around those lines. So we are using tools like ChatGPT to help us to get started. I see that in a near future, and either just like next year, for example, we might need to change to a more enabler role. So that means that just like we have a Salesforce business analyst, I see that we'll have the need to have AI business analysts. So people who can really understand the foundational knowledge of how AI works to be able to chime in participate in these projects and understand really what are the requirements to build an AI powered product. So I think that's where we are going to in the next year or so. Yeah, maybe next year,
Mm,
because
mm.
nowadays a lot of companies are trying to build and build, but some of them don't really even know if what they are building is something that they need. And that's why they need us, because we are able to understand the business, the pain point, the challenge, but we also need to upskill and understand what are the capabilities of AI so that we can help the development team to build the right product or right model.
Yeah, that's a really good point because AI is slightly different to, let's say, just doing a process model or something like that. It
Mm.
actually works differently. Although it can understand that when we do a process model, let's say, because there's a change in the organization, so we say this is the process, you would need something similar with AI so that process is well understood. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Exactly. And that's why I keep telling people, don't wait until it's too late. It's better that you start getting upskilled. There are so many courses online where you can get started. There is one called AI for Everyone by Andrew N. It's
Yeah.
very popular and it's for beginners. So it shows like all the terms and foundational concepts without the jargon or the technical background that some other courses require.
I've actually seen that one of his and it's really good. It really makes you feel quite calm. He's quite a calm person. He's
Yeah.
he he's not like a super excitable, like salesy kind of guy, but he's super calm, really nice way about him. So yeah, I
Yes.
agree with you. That's a great start in the conversation with AI. So talking about that, if let's say you were going to look at a AI business analyst, what do you think the critical skills will be? And will it be different from what we do today in terms of not just the skills, but also the kind of core competencies of that individual? What do you think that would look
Um,
like?
I would say that the core competencies won't change because we'll still need people with an analytical mindset, people who are good communicators, people. And I would say that one skill that doesn't change, but we might need to reinforce even more is the ability to learn, the desire to learn. Because as you might have seen with AI, everything is changing so fast. Like within the same day, we might have updates from 3 different companies, new models being released. It's
It's
sometimes
crazy, right?
overwhelming. Exactly. So if you're able to keep up with the pace of that and or focusing really on what really matters, that's going to be a great skill to have. But the core competencies on the sense of being good communicators, being good facilitators are not going to change. You might need to go into the technical piece of understanding more about AI, what's the difference with machine learning and deep learning, what are the applications, when not to use AI, when to use it, and so on. But the main concepts or the main skills, I say that they would remain. AI is just another technology that has a lot of potential, but it doesn't mean that it's another technology.
Yeah, I agree. It's slightly different from other technologies, but it's already been integrated into so much of what we do anyway.
Exactly.
But for the particular task of what business analysts do in the organization, it certainly can help us a lot in what we're doing. So, thinking about that, what do you see happening over the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years? Do you see that the title, I know you mentioned a different title, but do you see a completely different workforce, or do you see it basically not that different from what it is today? What are your thoughts around the
Uh-huh.
future?
I was mentioning the title of AI Business Analyst, and maybe that's what will be called. I don't know, but again, there are so many titles, but I think in terms of competencies, I see that business analysts will be more on the enabler side, not so much on the user. We'll still be using tools like ChatGPT or whatever other tool people are using, but I think we need to start getting we'll start getting that approach on being the translator between the business side and the development side, helping them understand when really to use AI. Because nowadays, a lot of companies are just doing it for marketing purposes or just because my competitors are doing it, but they are not really focusing on, okay, do we really need it to start with?
Yeah.
Cannot we do like any other change in our process to avoid that? Instead of investing money in technology. So I think having a person that can be neutral, that can really see the big picture, but also the details can help. And that's where I see will be a good addition to any company. And that's where we'll be excelling in the next years.
Mhm. That's good. In your current role, so I don't know, I'm probably as passionate about this AI environment and the future as you are. Do you find that you feel like just running ahead and just doing stuff, and sometimes you feel like there's limitations? What are your feelings around the work and playing with AI? Because it's quite an interesting field, but it's not
It
something you
is.
immediately integrate into your everyday work. So what do you?
Mhm. To be honest, I feel overwhelmed with everything that's happening around AI. It's super overwhelming to be I have to monitor like all what's happening out there in the market and check what competitors are doing. So it's every minute you're getting some news. People are sharing some posts on LinkedIn, Twitter, newsletters that I receive. So every minute I see more and more news, but I have to keep focus and try to filter like all the noise and be able to communicate the right information to our business leaders. So yes, it feels super overwhelming, but I guess we have to be very knowledgeable, or not only knowledgeable, but skilled at what we are actually what's the message we want to convey to our leaders. In my current role, it's super cool. I really love it because I get to work with or to collaborate with leaders who are in different industries, different verticals. And yes, I know about AI, but they are the ones who really know about their business domains, about their markets. So being able to collaborate and brainstorm with them some ideas that they can implement, it's very rewarding. It's very nice to see, oh, okay, they are starting now this project, and maybe some of the ideas that I gave them are helping to somehow transform their businesses. So it's very cool, and it's something that I really enjoy.
Okay. That's really nice that your business is also opening up the opportunities for you to really look at those things. But I agree with you, it can be overwhelming. You go away for 1 week and something happened. And you're like, what? How did that occur? So the speed of it is unbelievable. And I think unless you're following it, you people don't realize how much is changing. Like the rate of change is unbelievable. Do you think that talk about GPT-5 and robots taking over the world? What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel sometimes that in the business environment, that's really not where we are, but I don't know what robotics and various other fields will be like. What are your thoughts?
For sure, I can talk about that because that's something that a lot of my colleagues ask me about. And I usually tell them that I don't think robots are going to take over humans, at least not now, because
Mm,
there are two challenges for that. First, we are running out of data. Yes, we do have a lot of data, but all these models, powerful models, are being trained on that data, and we are not going to have more data to use for our training purposes. So that's one. And without data, AI doesn't exist. So that's one challenge. And the second one is that the more powerful the models are, the more computing power we'll need. And some of the computing power that we have are getting very limited. So until we move to the quantum computing and start bringing more powerful computers, it's not going to be easy to build robots that can take over humans. And quantum computing, according to a paper that I saw a few months ago, said that he estimates that it'll be ready in about 7 to 10 years, but he's not sure. So no one knows
mm.
when quantum computing will be ready. There's a lot of work in progress, but yes, people don't know. So until then, I wouldn't even be worried.
Yeah. I I would agree with you. There's all these things around chips and getting the right kind of storage, and the machines basically get overheating, and then they need cooling systems that are
Exactly.
extreme. But I do think simple things like generative AI that we use mostly for work, that's certainly something that can come in, but I definitely don't think it's going to take over the world. I
Exactly.
don't
And
think.
one thing that worries me and that I've heard also from my professors is the misinformation piece. Because nowadays you can create compelling messages that might seem real, that might seem true, but they are not real, right? So it's going to be easy for people who don't have critical skills to believe everything you post or everything you share with them. So a lot of misinformation on the political side or even on the personal side, because you see something that seems very elaborated, you're going to be inclined to think it's true. So that's one of the biggest concerns that I might have, that people just blindly believe whatever they read without the right source.
Yeah. It is interesting because when you do prompts, unless you explicitly tell it not to give you information, like unless you say, don't provide me with fictional information, it gets creative, and it pretends that this scenario is an actual thing. It doesn't seem to know the difference. So I often say to people, when you're prompting, make sure that you tell it not to give you made up data.
Exactly. And yet,
Yeah.
and even though we say that, yes, that helps mitigate, but all these models are working on probability and statistics. So there's always going to be that margin of error where these large language models can make mistakes. So we need to ensure that whatever we are using it for, we always have a human in the loop that can review and accept whatever
Yeah.
output we are getting, or that we are okay with getting errors, that whatever we use it for, it's not like something that's going to impact the life of other person if it made a mistake, things like that, because there's always that margin of error.
I think that human in the loop is really important, because we know, as when you work as an analyst, and I get a little bit nervous that people will become lazy with that. Go, oh yeah, that looks fine. But they haven't gone and investigated it any further. But it is definitely something that I think will be an important thing to consider, that you do need that human intervention. So although your data capturing might be quicker, you still need that part of the process to be done. And that's just not at AI level just yet.
Exactly. One more thing is that I also tell people to treat this ChatGPT, for example, Gemini, or any tool they're using, as a smart intern. You can ask them to do things, you can ask them to check, to produce, but if you are like leading or managing this intern, you're not going to blindly accept whatever they say. As smart as they are, you have to bring your output, you have to bring your input as well. You have to validate and check at your further notes, etc. And then you can present your work. And your brand is going to be behind whatever you hand. So you better make sure that it is correct. That's what I tell them.
Yeah, that's good advice. I also think that when we looking at AI, we should just make sure that there must be some kind of sign off so that people take ownership if they go, this is truth, because that can be really challenging. Do you think, you've obviously done prompting, you've obviously looked at different types of ways in which to gather information using AI. Do you think that the prompting, the way people prompting is correct? Do you think that's a fundamental problem with some people using prompting and then getting information? Like, how do you see the prompting working?
I haven't talked to many people about this topic, but for what I have seen so far, I've realized that there are so many posts, for example, on LinkedIn, that are very generic. People that are posting with the same similar words, like "let's delve into the world of AI." Yeah. So there are words that you see repetitively, right? And I haven't talked to them, but I imagine that in the back end, they're just saying, okay, produce a LinkedIn post. That's it.
Yeah.
And as you were saying before, the more instructions you can give, the better information or output you're going to get. These tools work with a lot of context. So for us as humans, it's easier to capture all the details, connect the dots. But for a machine, they're instruction based in that sense. You have to tell them, okay, you're a writer, or maybe you're an artist, you're a politician, you're a business analyst, etc. And then try to narrow the context, give them all the potential scenarios that you might can think of, or provide some examples. In that way, your output is going to be more accurate and you're going to have better quality. The thing is that a lot of people don't want to go to that process. They just want something quick, fast, and they don't want to go through the process of giving the details. So yes, that's the challenge. You're not going to get a good quality if you're not inputting a good prompt. Just like
Yeah.
volunteering, right?
Yeah,
What you give is what you get.
exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
I was wondering, I had this thought that a prompt engineering is very similar to writing requirements. It feels like it has a very similar rule to it, right? You've got to, and also if you look at Babok, that Backham model, which is you got to understand the context, the need, the stakeholder, all of those kind of things. It's almost when you do prompt engineering, you've got to think like that when you're writing the prompt that you want. Sometimes you can keep it super simple, right? Like it could
Mhm.
be just edit this piece of work or something like that. It doesn't always have to be complex, but What are your
Exactly.
thoughts? Do you think it's similar to requirements?
I would say that in the sense, for example, when we are building the user stories, you're telling them as a something I need or I want something so that I can get something. It's similar with the prompting piece. We need to give them the role. We need to tell them what to do. We need to tell them why you need it for, what's the purpose, and so on. And the more examples you can give, the better information you're going to get. So just as in requirements, if you are very generic, it's going to be harder for the development team to come up with a solution. And then you're going to have a lot of back and forth, a lot of miscommunication. Then you're going to go and look at the result and it's not what you were expecting. It's exactly the same. You couldn't make a better analogy. I like that one.
That really will help the AIBA, right? That would
Exactly.
okay, let's look at some additional questions here. Maybe could you, I think we've covered a lot of the questions just in our conversation, but here's one that I think will be really good. Could you share some advice or lessons learned to people entering the fields in either business analyst, business architecture, or wanting to explore AI?
Sure. So if you want to work into dive into the world of AI, I would say to follow a T-shaped approach. I don't know if that's a general term, very common, but basically your T-shape means that you're getting transferable skills, right? Like very general skills, like what we were saying, communication, analytical skills, knowledge about I don't know, like how to run a business and so on. But then your specialty would be AI. So I would encourage people to, yes, look at all the knowledge areas, for example, of business analysis, but then dive into the world of AI by understanding what are the foundational concepts, how to differentiate what are the capabilities and limitations of AI, and get a little bit more specialized as time approach or continues. Also, I would encourage people to not be hesitant to build their own projects because when you get hands-on experience on building your own ChatGPT or your own model chatbot, you're gonna understand all the nuances that go in this world. You're gonna be more empathetic with the developers and understand what are the different steps that you have to go through to get your final product. And that will bring more questions, and then you'll have to do a lot of research. So I would say yes, follow the T-shaped approach, get your foundational skills in business analysis, but then get a little bit more specialized in the AI field. Yes, not just as an user, but as an enabler. So
Yeah.
understanding really concepts and limitations, applications, and so on.
That's great advice. It really is. So you want to get the breadth, like overall understand the field, but then also go into the depth of what your interest is. And if it is AI, absolutely. It's going to be a lot of learning. And you have to
Yes.
learn very quick and you have to stay up to date, as you were saying.
One more comment. AI, yes, seems overwhelming, as I was saying, because of all the news that are happening, right? But there are some foundational concepts that don't change along the time. For example, machine learning. That's a concept that's going to remain at least the same for now. How neural network works, or what's deep learning, what's natural language processing. So those things, those concepts remain the same. It's just like people are building more applications, more models, more tools, AI powered tools. So that's it's the overwhelming piece, but those foundational concepts are going to remain the same. So I just
Yeah.
want people to not feel discouraged because it's changing so fast. Just focus on those concepts that are core to the field and then just keep up with the news and reading the articles.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice because otherwise they're going to feel like they're going to get some what knowledge saturation. You reach a
Yes.
point where you just go, I can't see anymore
Mhm.
right now. I've just, yeah, so
Exactly.
they've got to create their own learning path to go, these are the 10 things I'm going to learn. And yeah, just take the noise out for now.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. If you could, the standard question I ask everyone, if you could go back in time to your younger self and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I would tell them to start learning about AI faster. But jokes aside, I would say to be patient. Sometimes we don't even know what we want to do in our careers, and that's okay. As long as you keep exploring, keep learning, and remain curious, everything is fine. For example, when I came here and studied business analysis, I thought that I wanted to focus mainly on business and that's it. And then I realized that I was missing the data piece, and that's why I started taking the data science course. So I didn't know I wanted to be an AI business strategist. So little by little, just start like putting the pieces of the puzzle together, but you just gotta be patient and remain curious. Being patient doesn't mean that you're just gonna let destiny or the universe to do everything for you. You need to keep learning, upskilling, just be patient with yourself, and yeah, things will work out.
Mm, that's great advice. I must be honest, patience isn't my strongest. I get
You
so
and me both.
impatient. I'm like, but yeah, I agree, patient. And yes, if we could have had that foresight around AI a little bit earlier, it would have
Yeah.
it would have been good, right? Okay, so Maria, thank you. That's been an awesome discussion. I love the AI. I love discussing all the different things that you're doing. Is there anything that you'd like to add from the conversation? What are your plans with business analysis itself that you're looking
Sure.
at? Mm.
I would like to invite actually everyone to join our community, AI Expedition. We host monthly webinars. They are free webinars, and we share those core concepts that I was mentioning. So we started with AI for everyone. Then we went through machine learning, what is it, when to use it. We now have an upcoming session on deep learning. So yeah, just
Great.
join us. We have our previous sessions posted on YouTube, and happy to help anyone with any questions about AI.
That's perfect. And contacting, you said YouTube,
Yes.
and then your LinkedIn, do you have any links there, or is that just if somebody wants to get in touch via LinkedIn?
Yes, sure. So on my LinkedIn page, on my About section, yes, feel free to connect with me. But on my About
Yeah.
section, I have all the links for the AI Expedition page, the YouTube channel, subscription to our newsletter, and more.
Okay, perfect. That's wonderful news.
Yeah.
And congratulations for really bringing this to people who are interested in it, but might not be scientists or that kind of thing. It really just helps people understand those things
Yes,
a bit.
that's the
Well done.
idea. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And thank you for inviting me. This has been a great experience.
Yeah. It's really lovely to see you again. And it's like nice to be on the other side.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much.
All righty.